At the movie's beginning, the audience is taken to a small town in Argentina, where houses are equipped with strict security systems. This is due to the high crime rate in the area, especially theft. One day, when the streets are quiet, a man named Ciro is seen breaking into a car. As a car theft specialist, he easily takes radios and other valuables from inside the vehicle. After being satisfied with the stolen goods, Ciro even showed his brazen attitude by peeing on the car. After completing all his missions, Ciro prepared to leave the car. However, unfortunately, he failed to open the door and realized he was trapped inside. It turned out that the car had been specially designed and modified to trap thieves. That day became an experience that Ciro would never forget. Even more unlucky, he had to survive in a car filled with the smell of urine due to his actions. Ciro was trapped in the car until nightfall, without food, without drink, and the air getting thinner. The panic slowly turned to exhaustion while his body grew weaker. Finally, without realizing it, he fell asleep in the car. The next day, Ciro, still trapped in the car, returned the radio he had previously stolen and began listening to his favorite song to calm his mind. However, in the middle of his relaxing moment, a call suddenly came in through the car system. The voice on the other end of the line was Enrique, the car's owner. Enrique is a 60-year-old obstetrician, a widower who has lived alone for a long time. With a calm voice, he explained that his car had been the target of theft 28 times. Because of this, he deliberately modified his vehicle with an advanced security system to trap the thieves. Enrique discovered Ciro's presence in his car through an alarm notification on his cell phone. He explained that the car had been specially modified with super dark tinted windows, a soundproof system, and a deactivated suspension. In addition, the entire body was reinforced with bulletproof steel, making it impossible to break into from the inside. Even more surprisingly, Enrique revealed that he could control the car completely via his cell phone and even blow it up at any time if he wanted to. After hearing Enrique's words, Ciro asked for water because he was thirsty. However, instead of getting an answer, the phone in the car suddenly died. Shortly afterward, the air conditioner turned on by itself, making the temperature in the car even colder. Ciro started to shiver and tried to warm himself up. He removed the clothes he had previously used as bandages on his legs, then closed all the air conditioning vents in the car using newspapers. Shortly afterward, a policeman came to Enrique's car and gave him a ticket for having tinted windows. Seeing an opportunity, Ciro started shouting and shaking the car with all his might, hoping to attract attention. However, his efforts were in vain. The car was equipped with a soundproofing system, and the suspension was turned off, so the policeman was unaware that someone was trapped inside. It started to rain, and Enrique called Ciro again. This time, he asked for Ciro's full name and ID number in exchange for a glass of water. Feeling he had no other choice, Ciro answered his questions. After that, Enrique informed him that there was a little drinking water from the window cleaner hose at the back of the car. Even though he managed to get some water to quench his thirst that night, Ciro still felt very hungry. The next day, Ciro was still trying to make a hole in the car door to find a way out. However, his efforts continued to fail. Not long after, Enrique called again. This time, Ciro complained that the gunshot wound in his leg had become infected and that his body had developed a fever. Hearing this, Enrique immediately turned on the heating system in the car so that Ciro's body temperature would remain stable and the fever would not get worse. In the conversation, Enrique began to tell him about his life. He revealed that based on the doctor's diagnosis, he only had about 1 year left to live due to the malignant tumor he was suffering from. Because of unbearable hunger, Ciro was forced to eat paper from the car manual. In fact, in increasingly severe conditions, because there was no water at all, he was desperate to drink his urine. Suddenly, another thief tried to break into the same car. However, his luck was much worse. Before he had time to act, residents immediately spotted and arrested him. On the third night, Ciro, exhausted and frustrated by Enrique's chatter, chose not to pick up his phone. His growing hunger made him think of eating the insects he found in the car. However, he finally gave up the idea after taking a closer look. The next day, Enrique called again, and this time, Ciro finally picked up. Enrique said that he had hidden a chocolate bar behind the brake pedal. Hungry, Ciro immediately picked it up and ate it greedily. After that, Ciro tried to charge the battery by drying it in the sun, hoping it could be recharged. Meanwhile, he kept trying to make a hole in the car door. Finally, after much effort, he made a hole in the door. However, the hole was too small, so the people around him still couldn't see it. What's more, Ciro's voice was getting weaker due to fatigue and dehydration, making his screams almost inaudible. Shortly afterward, Enrique called again and told Ciro he had met his wife and child. He even gave them a large sum because Ciro had won a prize. Enrique also insisted that he had not harmed Ciro's family. However, Ciro still did not believe him and was suspicious of Enrique's intentions. In the conversation, Enrique revealed that he had obtained Ciro's criminal record. It turned out that Ciro had been involved in several murders. However, Ciro argued that it was all done in self-defense. Hearing this, Enrique felt that Ciro deserved to be punished. According to him, being trapped in the car resulted from everything Ciro had done. After drying his cell phone battery all day, Ciro's cell phone finally turned on, albeit with little power. Without wasting any time, he immediately tried to call his wife. Unfortunately, his wife's cell phone was inactive, so Ciro could only leave a voicemail. However, before he had time to speak, his cell phone battery ran out again, making him even more desperate. When Ciro felt bored at night, he idly pressed the car's starter button. Unexpectedly, the car engine turned on. However, because the gear was stuck and could not move forward, his only option was to put it in reverse. Without hesitation, Ciro stepped on the gas as hard as he could until the car accelerated backward and finally hit an electric pole. The hard impact opened the car door, and Ciro managed to escape the trap that had held him all this time. Once free, Ciro's first destination was the nearest convenience store. Without thinking, he immediately grabbed food and drinks to quench his hunger and thirst, without caring how to pay. However, suddenly, everything disappeared. Ciro woke up and realized that everything was just a dream. He was still trapped in the car, in the same state as before. Shortly afterward, Enrique called again, and this time, Ciro, who was already completely desperate, said that he would kill himself right then and there. However, when he pulled the trigger of his gun, it jammed, making him even more frustrated. Suddenly, the car lights came on brightly, blinding his eyes. As his eyes adjusted, he saw Enrique standing before the car. Without haste, Enrique opened the door and got in. Seeing Ciro's condition, which was already very weak, Enrique gave him a cigarette and a piece of chocolate and began to treat his wound. However, there was something strange about Enrique's attitude. He seemed so calm, not even showing the slightest sense of guilt. On the contrary, there was a clear satisfaction on his face, as if he were enjoying the suffering of Ciro, who had been trapped in the car for days. As Enrique was busy answering the phone for one of his patients, Ciro saw a golden opportunity. With the last of his strength, he took his gun and shot Enrique. The bullet hit him in the cheek and made him stagger. Ciro immediately got out of the car and managed to escape this time. Ciro's voice was already so weak that his screams were not enough to attract people's attention. He then fired a shot into the air to call for help. However, Enrique was still alive. The wound on his cheek was only a minor scratch, and he got up immediately. Angrily, Enrique forced Ciro back into the car. The incident did not escape the attention of a policeman on patrol. In a short time, residents began to gather to witness the incident. Some people defended Ciro and considered him a victim. Others sided with Enrique, whom they saw as a man who only tried to protect his property. Because the situation did not improve, the police called a negotiator to talk to Enrique. In the conversation, Enrique alluded to the police performance, which he thought was weak in dealing with the robbers. He highlighted the many cases in which robbers were simply released without commensurate punishment. This meant they were never deterred and continued repeating the same crime. Enrique felt that the law no longer provided justice. Therefore, he decided to try criminals with his own hands. For him, this was a way to provide a deterrent effect that law enforcement officials had been unable to do. Many residents who listened to Enrique's words began to agree with him. They also felt frustrated because many had been victims of robbery, but the perpetrators often escaped without proper punishment. The negotiator slowly approached Enrique and tried to persuade him. He challenged Enrique to shoot Ciro so that all his problems would end immediately. However, he warned that if Enrique did it, his child would forever be labeled as the child of a murderer. Hearing this, Enrique began to doubt and looked confused. After thinking for a moment, he finally decided to release Ciro. However, he did not turn himself into the police. Instead, he got into the car, fully aware of what he was doing. Enrique knew that he only had 1 year left to live due to his illness. Plus, his name had been tarnished as a result of this incident. Realizing that there was nothing more he could do, he made the final decision. He chose to end his life by blowing up the car with himself inside. A few days after the incident, what happened to Enrique went viral. People started talking about the low level of security in Argentina. Many people recalled Enrique's words about the lack of justice in the country. Meanwhile, although Ciro had committed many crimes, he would soon be released. The film ended with a thought-provoking message about the inequality of law and justice in society.